to the syllabus, right? So that you are aware of the whole syllabus, and then I'll discuss the topics that we have already done, not in detail, of course, but at least to that much extent so that you have an understanding of the things. Then we will continue with topics like telephonic skills, group discussions, right? Netiquettes. Okay. So, Unit 1 is something that we have already finished in the online classes. We've also finished the netiquettes part of Unit 2. We, uh, we also finished presentation skills of Unit 3, and we have also finished making online academic work profile on LinkedIn. That is a part of Unit 4. These are the topics that we've already done. I'm not going to discuss the topic of Unit 4 with you again, right? Or for that matter, okay, this presentation skills part, but I'll just recapitulate certain points which we have discussed in Unit 1 so that you have an idea. Wherever you feel that you haven't understood something or there is something that is not clear to you, you feel free to let me know, right? So I welcome you all to this class of SEC paper, which is Communication in Professional Life. I am Rituraj Anand, I am Assistant Professor at Shahid Rajguru College of Applied Sciences for Women, right? I'm in the Department of English over there, right? So I've taken, I think, three online classes on Microsoft. Ideally, this is your fourth class, and first, which is happening in the physical mode. So we have already discussed the theory of business communication. All of you must be having an idea about a common understanding of communication, which is when you share your idea, thoughts, emotions, or feelings with somebody. So that is what we say, we call as communication. Then what is business communication? Is it different from communication? See, it is not very much different from communication. Rather, it is a, like, if you consider communication as an umbrella term, so business communication is a part of it, right? Now, the day-to-day communication that happens in your daily life is different than the communication that you have when you are a part of an organization. When you are part of a corporate organization, or when you have to deal in business, there is a different conversation, there is a different communication that happens, right? You're not much into personal, personal conversations with those people. So for example, if he's my friend and we meet somewhere, so I might just have a casual discussion with him on, let's say, football or cricket or something else, or what must be going on in his life. But if he's my client and I'm the service provider, and we have a meeting to decide, on the price that I would offer him the service on, so I'm not going to discuss football with him. Whatever thoughts, ideas, or emotions, feelings, all of those things that will be there in my head, it will be relevant to the business or the organizational goal for which we will sit to have a meeting, right? So that is business communication. I'll just show you the PPT as well. There you can have a look at different definitions of business communication. Then we discussed about different functions of communication in the online class. We discussed about one-way communication or two-way communication. I'll just discuss it briefly with you, so because this is again relevant to professional life. See, when we talk about someone being in a company, so what happens is that there are times, let's say if I am a company's owner, and I come up with a policy that you won't be getting leaves on second Saturdays and last Saturdays. If I come up with this policy, now I'm just going to come up with a notice, right? And then you will all have to follow it. Notice or circular, you'll all have to follow it, right? Now, the thing is, am I going to ask you people कि policy बनाऊं या ना बनाऊं? I'm not going to ask you people. I am the authority over there. So a type of communication wherein no expectation is there for a response from the receivers. अभी यहाँ पे मैं सेंडर हूँ, आप रिसीवर है, आप लोग से सारे एम्प्लॉइज हैं, मैं आपका एम्प्लॉयर हूँ, मैंने पॉलिसी बनाई, so I don't expect a response from you, right? So that is one way communication. But let's say if we have to organize an office party on the 1st of January. So for that, I'll definitely ask you people to give me ideas. Now that will be two-way communication, because I am expecting a response from you all in this case. Is that clear? Yes. So this is something that we did. Then we discussed about communication cycle How is it relevant when you talk about communication? So there are different elements of communication, right? For example, if we are having a conversation right now, or for that matter, let's say if I am I'm the employer, these five people are my employees, and all of you are my clients, right? Now if I have to communicate with them, is there a problem? Hi, is there a problem? So if I need to communicate with them something regarding the product that that our company manufactures, let's say she is the HR manager, she is the marketing manager, she is the sales manager, and she is the production manager. These four are my employees. HR manager, marketing manager, sales manager, and production manager, and all of you are certain clients, right? If I have a if I have a communication with these people, and I let's say tell the HR to hire some new workers for a particular product that we have launched lately, so that the pace of manufacturing can be increased. Now if I convey that to the HR, so in this communication I am the sender, I am the sender. She is the receiver. Right. Now, as a sender, when we talk about communication, in fact, business communication, wherein it is very important to be clear with the things. Otherwise, it is supposed to affect a particular business. If I, as a sender, won't have a clarity of thought about whatever I want her to do, so it is going to cause some problem. If I don't tell her the exact number of, let's say, units that we have to produce in our company in a particular month, how is she going to decide the number of workers that she has to hire, right? So to decide the number of workers, I need to give her a clear picture of the number of units that have to produce in a particular month. So I need to have a clarity of thought as a sender, and then I need to also have a clarity of expression. Now, what is this clarity of expression? If there is something in my head, how do I convey it? That is expression. Now I can just call her up someday and tell, okay, you need to hire these many people. Sorry, you need to hire as many people required to manufacture these number of units of this particular product, right? Or I can just I can just call a meeting and then convey to her, or I can just mail her the whole thing. Now what is the ideal way of communication? That is what I need to be clear about, how I need to express what is there in my head. So as a sender, I need to have a clarity of thought and clarity of expression. Then whatever thing that is there in my head, I'll convey it to her in the form of maybe written communication. लिख के मेल करके भेज सकता हूँ, एक लेटर की फॉर्म में भेज सकता हूँ, या बोल के कन्वे कर सकता हूँ, या if there is something that I need to convey and I can't speak, so I can communicate non-verbally, or if I'm communicating orally to her, I'll definitely use non-verbal attributes as well. Body language का use करूँगा, flatly जाके तो ऐसे ही बोलूँगा, listen, you need to do this. I can't say like that, right? I need to be expressive in whatever I speak. I need to have the right body language. I need to have the right posture. So all of these things are required. इन सब को प्रोसेस करते हुए जिस भी फॉर्म में इसको मैसेज में भेजता हूँ, this process is going to be called as encoding. What is it? Encoding, right? Now I encode a message and I convey to her. Okay, so let's say if I decide that I will convey her orally, and I say to her that please hire as many number of people workers required to manufacture these number of units in a month. So this is an oral communication that I made, and I did not just use words, rather I also used certain expressions on my face, and I also used some of the body languages, right? So that is called a message. Now if I speak that out, she will receive it, she will receive certain sound, her ears will receive certain sound, then she will interpret it, right? This will be called decoding. Her interpretation will be called decoding, and she as a receiver is going to receive that message. Now the communication does not end over here. She needs to give me a feedback, right? Sir, I'll do it on time. Sir, by what time do you by what date do you need these workers in our office, right? So if she asks me this, then I'll understand that she received my message. तभी तो पूछ रही है. अगर वो नहीं सुनती तो वो कैसे पूछती? right? So this is called feedback. The response from the receiver's end to the sender's end. This is called feedback, right? And feedback is the most critical part of a communication cycle. So briefly, I have told you about communication cycle. This is again something that we discussed. So I'll just present you my screen and show you. Uh, okay, you feel free to click it just in case there is anything that you would like to keep for yourself. So these are certain definitions that we discussed in classroom. I'm not going to talk about it in depth, right? There are certain differences between the communication that happens in general and what we call as business communication, which I discussed in the very beginning as well in brief, right? The next topic that is there in your syllabus is cross-cultural communication. Now, when we talk about professional life, right? We live in a globalized world, and when we talk about, let's say specifically about the last 2 years, the way businesses have been happening, there has been a very complete sort of a paradigm shift. Things have moved in the online mode, right? So there are certain businesses which have started running digitally now. The IT people, the software people, they sit at the comfort of their home without going in the company for a month or so, and they still do their work. People have started working sitting at their home for a company that is in, let's say, Saudi Arabia or Dubai, right? There are with globalization, we are also acquainted with certain terminologies, let's say MNCs, right? Multinational companies have been coming up for a long time, right? Now there are companies which have their which has a particular headquarter at a particular place, but then it has its branches in different countries. Now, considering all of these things, a person can't stick to one's own culture when a person is in a professional space, right? A person needs to communicate with people from different cultures as well as region. When there is a regional difference, definitely there is a difference in culture as well. And when that happens, right, so there are a number of problems that occur, right? When we talk about businesses or when we talk about a professional life, it is very important to keep the other person in mind. Sorry. Hence, sorry. Hence, we need to have the right cross-cultural communication. So, what is cross-cultural communication? The communication that is made between people belonging to different cultures or among different you know professionals belonging to different cultures. Right now, there are certain barriers which sort of hamper the communication process when you talk about cross-cultural communication. What are these barriers? So, we at times assume similarities. At times, when we are in professional life, we think that just because we understand uh, a particular meaning of a particular gesture, this other person would be also having the same interpretation of it. No, that is not, I mean, that is not something that is common with the other person. For example, let's say this particular gesture, now in the Western context, this is all the best, something very positive, right? If you want to convey, if you want to wish someone all the best, this is something that you use. Okay, all right, something positive, it has positive connotations, right? But when we talk about the same gesture in the Indian context, right, it is as if the other person is illiterate. Yes or no? On the similar lines, there are one or two countries wherein this is yes and this is no. Now this is again different. So when we assume similarities, that our understanding is same to the other person's understanding who is from a different culture, then that causes problem. And this is also like, the same example can also be used when we talk about misinterpretations of non-verbal communication. See, apart from verbal communication, apart when we talk about oral communication, let's say, there are times when we use a lot of non-verbal communication, non-verbal attributes. What if all of those non-verbal attributes are misinterpreted by the other person? And it is bound to be if the other person is from some other culture. Most probably that person. क्या हो गया? अच्छा, okay. Then preconceived notions or stereotyping. Now, let's say, so we all are judgmental people, right? Human beings are bound to judge others, and there is nothing wrong in it, right? I mean, definitely, if you start evaluating the other persons and start behaving towards the other person as per your judgment, then there is a problem. But it is very normal to judge somebody, right? Now, there is something called when we when you pre-evaluate somebody, or you have certain preconceived notions about somebody. Now let's say if I have a if I have a manager, if I'm working in MNC and one of my managers is from Sudan, right? Now, if I have my own stereotyping about people from Sudan, let's say if I assume that people from Sudan are very rude people, they get angry, they're not very humble, right? So if I have all of these stereotyping in my head, and if I start communicating with my manager, my co-manager, so I think the communication won't be that good because of those preconceived notions. Hence, that becomes a barrier as well. Difference in language, of course, when you talk to somebody belonging to a different culture, that person may not be knowing your language, so that again becomes a barrier. So at times people overcome it with the help of let's say Google Translator. But imagine if somebody has to translate nako chane chabana in English, I don't think that offers the same meaning if it is translated by Google. Literal translation kar dega, it will not offer the same meaning, so that is again going to cause a problem. Then people may just think of using non-verbal attributes, but then non-verbal communication may be misinterpreted, that can again become a barrier. So these are certain barriers that we studied. Then how to overcome or improve these cross-cultural communication. So appropriate etiquette is our code of conduct, how we behave as a person, right? How we present ourselves as a person, that is etiquette. So we need to have the appropriate etiquette when we are dealing with anybody, be it physically or digitally. Let's say if the other person is from some other culture, say no to slangs. So like if let's say a particular language is my first language, so I may be acquainted with certain slangs. But if the other person's like if the other person does not have that language as the first language, if my first language is, let's say, English, and her first language is French, but still let's say she knows English somehow, so I can't be using slangs with her, because maybe she just knows that much English which is sufficient to help us to communicate, right? But then she won't be able to understand slangs. And specifically when we talk about professional space, we should avoid slangs. We should avoid also saying in a very colloquial way, for example, sir, I'm gonna go there and bring that up. No, you can't say like that. I'm going to do this, whatever. Right? Stop using certain slangs, right? Right pace, volume while you speak. Now you need to have the right pace or right volume when you speak. So, for example, the same example, like if she knows just that much English, which would help her to communicate with me. Now, if I keep my pace, if my pace is too much while speaking, or my volume is too low, then she may have difficulty to understand. Like others who have English as their first language, they may just understand it because they'll be able to understand even if they miss a point or two, they'll be able to connect. But because her first language is not English, so I need to keep my pace that much so that she is able to understand each and everything distinctly and properly. Second, I need to take care of my volume as well. I should not be too low, अदरवाइज शी वोंट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड. अगर मैं ऐसी, जैसे सबको हिंदी समझ में आती है, हिंदी भाषा अगर मैं धीरे भी बोलता हूँ तो आप लोग कहीं ना कहीं कनेक्ट कर पाओगे अगर एक दो चीजें मिस हो गई. बट अगर आपकी जो आपकी मातृभाषा है, या जो जो आपकी फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज है वो हिंदी नहीं है, तो वहां पे प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी, वहां पे आप वो फिल नहीं कर पाओगे वो गैप्स. इसलिए जरूरी है कि सही पेस हो और वॉल्यूम भी उतना ही हो जो सफिशिएंटली उसे समझा सके. नेक्स्ट इज क्लैरिटी. See, there are n number of issues when we talk about cross-cultural communication. So we need to be clear. So for example, if I want to launch, if let's say, if I'm planning a product with my boss, who is a Chinese person, right? So she is from China and I'm from India. We have to together plan a particular product that has to be launched in India. Now, as because she is from China, as per her culture, she may not understand the usability of that particular product, and I, being from India, may have a clear understanding about the usability of that product as per Indian environment or the requirement of Indian people. So I need to have a clarity on my product, and I should be able to explain the same to her so as to make her agree to my proposal. Yes or no? So you need to have a clarity of things when you communicate cross culturally. Then avoid asking close ended questions. See, just hold on. Avoid asking close ended questions. See, at times people consider it rude when they are asked to answer in yes or no, right? See, if she does not know my language, or if she is not from the culture that I come from, now if I ask her something that I expect her to answer in a yes or no, she may not be very comfortable with it. Maybe she is not comfortable, in clearly saying no, or maybe she has her own reasons due to which she is not able to understand my question, and I'm asking her to answer in yes or no. So keep the space open for the respondent or for the receiver to answer in detail, or to at least make him or herself understand when you ask somebody something, when you talk about क्रॉस कल्चरल कम्युनिकेशन. जब किसी से भी आप क्रॉस कल्चरल कम्युनिकेशन कर रहे हो, इतनी जगह दे दो सामने वाले इंसान को कि वो एटलीस्ट अपने आप को समझा पाए, rather than उसके सामने ऐसे क्वेश्चन पूछना कि yes or no में आपको जवाब चाहिए, because that at times is also considered as a rude sort of an expression, right? Humor, play it well. Now humor is very important. Now we are not, we don't want a comedy show during a meeting, of course. But then if let's say you know if this guy, if I am from Kent Purifier, right? uh, and if I am a sales manager, from Kent Purifier, and I call him up to let's say sell a particular product for which I informed him earlier on mail, and he told me that I could call him at this time. Now I can't just just for the humor sake, I can't just start cracking joke when he picks up my call. I can't do that. But of course, if I find a fit element to be added so as to just create some humor in between that conversation, I should definitely look forward to that. But I should not come up with abrupt humor elements in the like in between a meeting. Now this is a very normal sort of an example that I gave. But when we talk about cross cultural communication, now what is humorous to you, you can't say for sure that it can be humorous to the person belonging to some different culture. It may be offensive towards the other person, to the other person. Like winking somebody after cracking a joke about somebody else who is sitting over there is a normal gesture to us. We don't consider it offensive. But it may be offensive to the other person who you wink at, when that person belongs to some other culture. Now, when you take again it to a professional space, a professional level, so there as well you need to just keep the right humor at right time, and you should know when to add those humorous elements, and do not do it unnecessarily. Consideration and courtesy. Now you need to be considerate about towards the other person who belongs to some other culture, region, or follows a different faith, or comes from some other ethnic background. You need to be considerate towards the other person, and your communication should be in that manner, so that it shows your humbleness. You need to be polite and kind towards the other person. You should make the other person feel comfortable with you. So you need to create that space for communication, a good communication to happen. Be supportive. So again, when there is an issue with the language, so if I know Hindi, she knows Hindi, so it's fine, we can communicate. But let's say if I know Hindi, she does not know Hindi, and she is communicating something to me, ideally if she fumbles somewhere, I need to fill those gaps. I need to just speak that out on her behalf, so that she feels comfortable. So this is just one example. In professional space as well, we need to be supportive, not just in the sense of language. Also, there are times when somebody comes from some other culture, somebody from Kerala comes to a company in Punjab, and he maybe not, he may just start feeling uncomfortable with, let's say, the food culture, or let's say how the people behave with each other, or whatever. Let's say these are n number of problems that the person starts facing, or there are certain other behavioral patterns among the employees that he starts having a problem with when he joins an office in Punjab. Now all the employees, it is the responsibilities of all those employees to be supportive towards him during their communication. They should make him feel welcome. If there is something that they think that the other person may be just bothered about, so they should make him understand why is it so, rather than sidelining him or her, right? So this is again something that is important. Last, work environment opportunities to also, no matter where a person comes from, or uh, what culture a person follows, what faith a person follows. So there should be an equal opportunity that should be given to all, and that is the right work environment when we talk about a cross-cultural communication. So a cross-cultural communication should cater to a sort of friendly work environment wherein everybody feels comfortable to be with each other and to work well towards the organizational goals. Here are certain strategies you can have a look. We already have a look at it. We have already discussed it in depth in the online classes. So I'm not going to repeat. The recordings are already available over there. You can just watch it. Cultural shock. I'll just briefly discuss this. So what happens is that at times we start we start repelling towards the other people. Now, starting from the very basic understanding of it. So generation gap is one word that we listen quite often, right? At times we think that our parents can't understand us. At times we think our grandparents can't understand us, and we say that there is this generation gap. One. Two, the same example, a person coming from Kerala goes to Punjab for a join a new company. Then again, the sort of a repulsion that he feels towards certain things that happen over there. Now, in both of these things, there is a sort of discomfort, there, a psychological discomfort that a person goes through. This is what is called cultural shock. When a person belonging to a particular culture or belonging to a particular background, you know, gets acquainted with a different set of background, with a different set of culture, and there is a discomfort, a psychological discomfort. He or she cannot adjust, right, mentally and physically. So that is what we say, that is what we call as cultural shock. It may be based on the gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, social class, generation gap, as we discussed. But then how is it relevant in professional life? So cultural shock is definitely relevant in professional life. At times you have you have to leave your own nation for a field work to different country, or you have to leave your state and move to some other state for a brief period, for a, let's say, field work, for a for a for a factory visit or something like that. Now if you face any such psychological discomfort, then that means that you would be undergoing this cultural shock. Yes or no? है ना? Right. Now, I'm not going to delve much into it, but these are certain symptoms of cultural shock. You start feeling sidelined. You start feeling lonely. You start secluding yourself. You know, you are not able to work as efficiently as you used to be normally working, right? So these are certain, symptoms, common symptoms of cultural shock. Then apart from this, what we did in the class that we talked about, uh, you may just move out of the class or you stop speaking and listen to me. See, we are not marking your attendance, so it's anyway not required to sit in the class. So if you can just be quiet and not distract me and disturb the others, it's fine. So yeah, sorry. So apart from all of these topics, we discussed miscommunication, right? We also discussed effective communication. I'll briefly point out on the certain highlights of the things that we discussed in like under these two heads. So we discussed about miscommunication, that when you are not able to convey the exact thing which you intended in your head to the receiver. So आपने कुछ माइंड में सोचा, आपको ये डिजायर्ड चीज कन्वे करनी है और वो कन्वे नहीं हो पाई वैसे. So that is miscommunication. So that may happen due to certain factors. So some of those barriers may be physical barriers. Let's say if I'm communicating to you something right now and everybody starts creating noise. So noise may just become a physical barrier. If that person is sitting at the farthest corner of this room, and if I just start speaking at this volume, so he may not be able to listen to me. Anyway, he's not listening to me, but then he may not be able to listen to me, right? then time may again act as a barrier. Let's say if I look at the time and I decide that okay, I just have just I just have half an hour left with me, so I try to give you as much information as I can, but then in that, just to finish my topic, but during that, I may just increase my pace, which may just lead for your misunderstanding of the topic, which may just lead to misunderstanding of the topic, right? Then there are psychological barriers. Some of you may not be feeling very comfortable sitting over here. Some of you may be tired. Some of you may be feeling emotionally low. So all of these factors may be hampering your process of understanding. Psychological barrier. At times when you deal with a particular client, so you don't trust the client. Maybe the client might not have been paying you, the exact paying you the amount that he had to at right time. Now you are very doubtful whether to offer him or her the service or not this time. So you have this sense of distrust in you. Hence your communication will be conditioned according to that. So that will again become a barrier. Then when we talked about cross cultural communication, so let's say if she's my boss, she's from China, I am from India, I am her employee. Now we communicate with each other depending upon a translator. She is our translator at her place. Now she knows English, she knows Chinese, and she is helping us to communicate. Now she is not very okay with her, or she is feeling uncomfortable today and sort of whimsical, and आज उसका मन किया कि फन करते हैं. Now उसके फन के चक्कर में ये बिजनेस अफेक्ट हो जाएगा. Semantic barrier, right? The issue with translation, right?